What if the Jedi Council found out about Anakin and Padme's marriage? Let's start this story during the final year of the Clone War. Anakin has just returned after a long mission and immediately rushed home to spend the evening with his wife. They share quality time together alongside a good meal on their penthouse balcony and are very happy to be back together again. However, even though Anakin is very strong in the Force, being with his wife after weeks apart made him blind to someone watching him. Mace Windu had become very concerned with what Anakin was doing in his spare time and questioned why he would want to live away from the Jedi Temple. He didn't trust him and was curious why he would always rush off after he returned from every mission, so decided to hire the best private investigator on Coruscant to follow Anakin after he returned and find out what he was doing in his spare time. And what he discovered shocked him. The next day, Anakin was summoned in front of the Jedi Council and didn't think anything of it until he walked in and saw the sour look on all of their faces. Anakin stands in the center.
What's the meaning of this?
We're still waiting for another until we begin. Patience Skywalker.
But Anakin looks over to Obi-Wan, who doesn't make eye contact with him, and he now realizes something is really wrong. The door opens and in walks Padme. Her and Anakin make eye contact, and in this moment, Anakin realizes what has happened. The Jedi know everything.
Anakin, you were recently spotted being intimate with a certain senator at her home. Do you deny this?
Sweat begins to trickle down his cheek.
I do not.
You understand this is directly against the Jedi Code.
I do.
Yet you did it anyway. How long have you been with the senator?
We got married over 2 years ago on Naboo, and our relationship began shortly before that.
Whispers are scattered throughout the chamber.
That is most disappointing to hear, Skywalker. We all believed in you, and you let us down like this. Unacceptable. We'll give you one chance to renounce your marriage and attachment to Senator Padme Amidala. If you do not comply, we will have no other choice but to remove you from the Jedi Order.
Anakin looks over to Obi-Wan and then Padme. He doesn't want to leave the Jedi Order, but he knows what his priority in his life is, Padme.
I cannot give up my attachment to Padme. However, I do not wish to leave the Jedi Order. Is there nothing we can do?
I'm afraid not. From this moment on, Anakin Skywalker, you are no longer a Jedi Knight of the Republic. Leave this temple and never return.
Anakin stares down Mace Windu as he says this, the master he never liked and always had it out for him. He's definitely enjoying the moment, but Anakin just turns, holding Padme's hand and leaves. They go back to their house, where Padme is very apologetic to Anakin that she didn't want their relationship to cause him to be kicked out of the Order. But Anakin tells her it was always a possibility, that he knew the risks, and now they can finally live freely, not have to hide anymore, and can have the relationship they've always wanted. They spend the night together, happy and focused on the bright side of the whole ordeal. Anakin moves into Padme's home on Naboo, who spends half of her time there, and he starts to integrate into Naboo society. Palpatine saw this as a great opportunity to get closer to Anakin, and he did just this. They kept in close contact, talking every day, and Palpatine shared with Anakin how this whole ordeal gave him a new opportunity. He now didn't have to constrain himself to the Jedi's teachings, that they held him back, and now he can reach his full potential by exploring other aspects of the Force. They speak history, as Palpatine is a keen historian and talks to Anakin about various Sith Lords of the past, Darth Malgus, Emperor Vitiate, and of course Darth Plagueis, and how they all achieved extreme heights of power without the light side and learned abilities only Jedi could dream of. He tells Anakin to imagine if he explored this avenue of the Force, utilized both this and his Jedi teachings, he could achieve such a high level of power and could do whatever with it, but most importantly, protect his family and the people he cares about. Anakin was intrigued by this and had always pushed the Jedi's boundaries, but never strayed fully into the dark side. But what Palpatine was telling him interested him. Every time they talked, Palpatine taught him about a new Sith Lord, and without Anakin knowing it, he was slowly teaching him about the dark side and placing the seeds in his mind for his full conversion. But now Palpatine integrates his true plan. When Anakin and Padme are on Naboo, Palpatine uses his contacts to plant false evidence showing Padme working and colluding with the Separatists. The evidence showed her with key members of the Separatist leadership, as well as direct communication with Count Dooku. He reports this in anonymously to the Senate police, who put out a warrant for Padme's arrest. Meanwhile, Luminara Unduli and Nari were dispatched to Naboo for the arrest. They arrive at Padme's home, and Anakin opens the door to see the 2 Jedi and a squad of clones behind them, who state that Senator Padme Amidala is under arrest for treason against the Republic. They ask Anakin to step aside, who doesn't budge, and tells them that Padme isn't going anywhere. Luminara tells Anakin to be reasonable, and he states him not getting angry here is reasonable, and it's time that they leave his property. The clones raise their weapons and tell Anakin this is his last warning, or they'll be forced to fire. But Anakin ignites his blade in a flash and blocks the stun shots that hurtle towards him, and quickly deflects them towards the Jedi, who are rendered unconscious, and then deals with the rest of the clones. He rushes back into his house and finds Padme scared after hearing gunshots.
They were coming for you. They say you're to be arrested for treason against the Republic.
Padme was shocked by this, and obviously had no idea what Anakin was talking about. Anakin contacts Palpatine immediately, asking for advice, who tells Anakin the coordinates of his safe house on Naboo, and they head there immediately. Palpatine meets with them in the safe house, and they begin discussing their options. He can't directly get involved due to his relationship with both of them, as well as him having no jurisdiction over the Senate police. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, Anakin and Padme are declared enemies of the Republic, with warrants out for their arrest. Obi-Wan contacts Ahsoka about the situation, and they discuss what to do. Obviously, they know they're both innocent, and will do anything to help prove this. But before they can act, they need to be up to date with the situation, and Ahsoka states she will contact Anakin through his personal channel. But what Ahsoka didn't realize was that someone else was following the situation closely, Darth Maul. His recent vision of Anakin Skywalker by Palpatine's side has caused him to seek out the Chosen One, to kill him and thus deprive his master, who betrayed him, of his prized pupil. To do this, he's been following Ahsoka and bugged her with an audio device, and overhears the conversation between her and Anakin, in which he states he's hidden with Padme at a hideout in the countryside of Naboo, and Maul heads there immediately. Palpatine, Anakin, and Padme are discussing details when the door bursts off its hinges and in walks Maul. He takes a few steps forward until he freezes in place at the sight of Palpatine, who's equally as shocked as Maul. Before Maul can advance forward and say anything, Palpatine reaches out with the Force and chokes Maul and raises him into the air. He squirms side to side as Anakin and Padme look at Palpatine in shock before he snaps Maul's neck and slumps to the ground. Anakin asks Palpatine how he could do that, and he tells Anakin he's strong in the Force, but rushes Anakin onto the ship and tells them they need to go before anyone else arrives. Anakin asks Palpatine why he would keep this fact hidden from him, who firmly looks at Anakin and states it's because he never wanted to be a Jedi and follow their dogmatic ways. He wanted to live freely and do what he pleases. But he tells Anakin not to worry, that he's on their side, and will continue to strive to prove Padme's innocence. They leave the atmosphere of Naboo, and the couple decide where they should go. Where could they possibly hide in the galaxy? Anakin knows there's only one answer, and tells Padme they have to go back to Tatooine. They enter hyperspace, and exit to enter the atmosphere of the Sand planet. They land down next to the last farm, and greet them after over 2 years, and they allow Anakin to stay with them for the time being. Eventually, the Jedi and Obi-Wan track down the safe house on Naboo, but find it completely empty, and the Skywalkers had already left. But Obi-Wan has an idea where they might have gone. He knows Anakin better than anyone else, and can understand his line of thinking. Anakin stays in contact with Palpatine during their stay on Tatooine, continuing his subtle manipulation of Anakin Skywalker to the dark side. But now that Palpatine's Force sensitivity was revealed, he was able to teach Anakin some techniques that he knew. He teaches Anakin that if he utilizes the dark side, it can give him more power than any Jedi, and he begins fostering his hate for the Jedi. Padme told Anakin to be cautious of Palpatine, that she's slightly worried about what he's teaching him, and that there must be a reason he's hidden his power in the Force for this long. But Anakin disregards what she says, and tells her he has it all under control. After they're on Tatooine for a couple of weeks, Padme reveals to Anakin that she's pregnant, which makes Anakin extremely happy, but also more determined to get themselves out of the current predicament. Eventually, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka would track them down to Tatooine and tell them they're here to help and prove Padme's innocence. They all know it's false, so they try to deduce who would try and do this, and Obi-Wan proposes that it's likely a separatist plot, since Padme is one of the more popular senators of the Republic, and to discredit her would do a service to their cause. But Anakin has other ideas. He tells them he thinks the Jedi are behind this, that they must be angry that Anakin Skywalker, the hero of the Clone War and Chosen One, was able to achieve such power in the Force, even though he was directly violating the Jedi Code, and thus they're trying to discredit him, label him and his wife as criminals to get back at him for this. Obi-Wan tries to argue back against this, but Anakin tells them that the Jedi are not beyond such things, and suspects Mace Windu is behind all of it. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka leave to continue their investigation, whilst Obi-Wan does question the Council, but to no avail. Palpatine keeps manipulating Anakin and Padme, telling them that he's afraid that with the war coming to an end soon, that the Jedi might use this opportunity to take over the Republic, and believes that they've orchestrated this entire ordeal, kicking Anakin out of the Order and forcing him to evacuate the core worlds because he might pose a threat to them due to his friendship with Palpatine. Anakin and Padme were shocked by this, but ultimately believe what Palpatine was saying. Without being on Coruscant, they didn't know what's happening with the Jedi or Senate, and have come to believe that the Jedi are behind framing Padme. Through weeks of manipulation, Palpatine has turned Anakin against the Jedi, and Anakin tells his friend that he will join him on Coruscant to protect the integrity of the Republic when the time comes. Palpatine smiles. He's got everything he's wanted. Meanwhile, Palpatine manipulates the events of the Clone War to bring about an end to the war. He situates Kit Fisto and Plo Koon's forces with General Grievous, and the three clash in battle, resulting in the death of the droid general. He puts Dooku's forces against Yoda and Shaak Ti, which caused the death of the Separatist leader. Palpatine contacts Anakin after this, telling him the time has come. Anakin and Padme discreetly travel to Coruscant, and Anakin is snuck into Palpatine's office. With these two deaths, the war is essentially over, and Windu, alongside Agen Kolar, Saisi Tin, and Oppo Rancisis, approach Palpatine's office to make sure he gives up his emergency powers. But when they enter, Palpatine denies this, and tells the Jedi that it will be up to the Senate. The Jedi Masters class back, saying Palpatine has control of the Senate, so this will never happen. But Palpatine remains stubborn and refuses. This causes the four Jedi to ignite their lightsabers and announce that in the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic, Palpatine is under arrest. Palpatine looks over to Anakin, who was hidden, and signals for him to walk out towards him, and tells the boy he knew it would come to this. The Jedi are taking over. Anakin takes his lightsaber off his waist and ignites it, whilst Palpatine does the same. This leaves the Jedi in shock, but they prepare for battle. Palpatine uses his insane speed to catch Agen Kolar and Saisi Tin off guard, dispatching of them whilst he focuses on Windu, who blocks the oncoming attacks. Anakin takes on Oppo Rancisis, the 187-year-old master, who has mastered all forms of lightsaber combat. Anakin's ferocity and youth was his greatest strength, as he cuts off the tail of old Rancisis, which slows his movements. Anakin blocks the counter, and counters with his own force push, which catapults the master across the distant wall, dazing him. Before he can stand back up, the sapphire blue blade of Anakin Skywalker pierces his chest, and he crumples down defeated. Anakin rushes over to Mace and Palpatine, locked in a dance of death. Windu was instantly thrust on the defensive, and there was no opportunity to strike in between Palpatine and Anakin's onslaught. He attempted to use his Vapad to turn Palpatine and Anakin's dark side energies against them. He could feel this working and empowering himself, but this was short-lived, as Anakin cuts off his wrist, and Palpatine followed with a slice through his abdomen. He stumbled back, and was caught with Palpatine's Sith lightning before he could do anything. Anakin watches as the Master writhed in pain, the man he's hated for many years, and enjoyed watching him die. Palpatine releases him, and he collapses to the ground. He tells Anakin that every single Jedi, including his friend, Obi-Wan Kenobi, is now an enemy of the Republic, and they must be hunted down and defeated. Palpatine executes Order 66, whilst Anakin purges the Jedi Temple alongside the 501st Legion, and successfully wipes out every Jedi in the temple. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka were off-world at the time, and were able to survive the purge alongside other Jedi, including Yoda and Plo Koon. Palpatine quickly declared himself as Emperor and overtook the Republic and ordered Anakin to Mustafar to finish off the Separatist leaders. Anakin returns to Padme that night at their home and tells her what happened, with the Jedi attempting to arrest Palpatine, forcing Anakin to help him defend him, but left out how he purged the temple and killed the younglings. Padme still couldn't believe the Jedi would turn on the Republic after all this time, and agreed with Anakin that he was forced to assist Palpatine in defending himself. But one thing she does not favor is the conversion of the Republic into an empire led by Palpatine. Padme favored democracy through and through, and believed this to be the best way to achieve galactic peace. But she can't deny that the Senate and Republic hasn't thrived in recent decades. Anakin tells her this is an opportunity for something new, a new way to bring peace and order to the galaxy. She still has a hard time grasping the situation, but she believes in Anakin and is willing to back him, especially with their first child on the way. Anakin goes back to Palpatine after he's completed all his tasks and declares himself to the Emperor, vows he will follow all his commands, and he rises as Darth Vader, apprentice to Darth Sidious. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out What If Anakin Never Turned to the Dark Side animation, or What If Padme Joined Anakin. Please check out our membership program if you wish to support the channel. Like and subscribe, make sure to comment, as I love responding to you all, and may the Force be with you.